Submarines are very popular in today's world for many reasons. One is because of movies that try their best to depict what it looks like underwater or in wars. Two, because of the tragedies that take place when put in the hands of the wrong people. For example, just last month, America mourned the death of the passengers of the Ocean Gate submarine sent to explore the ruins of the Titanic and give passengers an exclusive experience. This and many more reasons is why a good number of people, even children, know what submarines are and have an idea of what they look like. However, not many of them know where this great machine came from and who had contributed to making this tool a great one. Hey there, welcome to today's video. In case you haven't caught on yet, we'll be diving into the history of submarines today. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do, and turn on your notifications so you can get notifications whenever I upload new content. The first idea of a submarine that was mentioned in history was in 332 BC. Tyre was under siege, and in desperation, Alexander the Great gathered a team of divers to help him with this battle. According to reports by Aristotle and Tabir al-Taysir, Alexander the Great was seen plunging into the water in a glass submersible that looked like what they called a diving bell. Many years down the line, many scientists began to form theories of how this was possible, leading them to try out new designs from the submarine and how it should operate. One of those scientists was William Bourne, who created a prototype of the submarine after studying how it must have looked during the Middle Ages. According to his design, he believed that the submersible that Alexander the Great had used during that siege was a completely submerged boat that could be rowed to the shores. And for this to be possible, it meant that the whole submersible had to be covered in waterproofed leather to avoid sinking. With the way this submarine worked, it was to be hand-operated. The idea was to have a wooden screw thread for adjustable plungers pressing against the flexible leather bags located at the sides to protect the submarine from staying extremely afloat or sinking in completely. It was made to have the perfect balance of water to adjust the buoyancy of the craft. The downside to this prototype, however, was that it didn't contain a space for the team members who were supposed to be on every trip with them. So when this sketch came out, it became a hot topic among inventors, until John Napier threatened to create his prototype. He put out a speech and riled people up in eager anticipation, but there is no record that he carried out this promise. The buzz died down before it even started. Not before long, Henry Briggs, who was a professor and friend of John Napier, visited him in 1615 and caught wind of the vision, and proceeded to create what history records as the first successful submarine in history. This submarine was created for an acquaintance of Napier's, whose name was Van Drebel. This man was an officer in the army of James I of England. This submarine had oars and was propelled majorly by them, but apart from that, no one can say they know what it looked like. Soon after this submarine was built, inventors came together to improve the design. This they did in public view of the countrymen, testing different outcomes and documenting them for the sake of the future. One of these tests was recorded by a man named Constantine Huygens, and according to him, the ship had entered into the sea quite calmly and had remained there for as long as 3 hours. This made the countrymen believe that everybody in the submarine was dead until they came up out of the water. The crew members of this tiny submarine had attested that riding in the submarine wasn't a scary experience. They spoke of all the adventurous things they had done with the submarine while under the sea, and made people watching know that this tool could be beneficial to them during wars so that they can do a better job at sneaking up on their enemies and catching them unaware. As a result of this discovery, 20 years from then, many warheads began to change the narrative about the submarines, proposing a use for military purposes instead of recreational and research-related activities. From there, the French began to build submarines for war purposes. And between 1690 to 1692, French physicist Denis Papin built 2 submarines strictly for military use. The first design, which was produced in 1690, was a heavy metallic square box, which was strongly equipped with an efficient pump that pumped air into the hull to raise the inner pressure. This design was greatly flawed because it didn't guarantee the safety of the crew members at all. Why do I say so? Well, whenever the air pressure beating against the submarine got to a certain level, the captain would open holes to let in some water. Fortunately for whoever who had ridden in this submarine, it was destroyed in no time by accident. But that didn't stop them. They proceeded to make another submarine, which was a bit different in shape, but worked with quite the same principles. Like the French scientists and inventors, other inventors around the world were also working extra hard to produce submarines for their nations so that they would not be behind no matter what happened. In 1776, America built its first submarine. This submarine, named Turtle, failed to do its job of sinking the British warship during the American Revolutionary War. It was operated by military professionals like Sergeant Ezra Lee, Continental Army, who all tried to make it work and produce the results the country needed. Till today, there are no records of the attacks on HMS's log. The next time that Americans attempted creating a submarine and using it again was during the American Civil War, and it was done by the Union. This submarine, named the Alligator, was the first U.S. Navy sub, and the scientists made many improvements to it. As history would have it, it was the first to feature an air filtration system, and the first submarine to carry a diver lock, which let divers plant electronically detonated mines on enemy ships. Just like before, it was hand-powered by oars, but in 6 months it was converted to a screw propeller powered by a hand crank. The submarine was 47 feet long and about 4 feet in diameter, and it carried a total of 20 people. Unfortunately, it was lost many years later in a storm off Cape Hatteras on 1st April 1863, so the government had to move on to other bigger opportunities, which they executed beautifully and used to their advantage each time. Another set of people who used the submarine for military purposes way before the World Wars are the Russian and Japanese Navy. In 1904, the Imperial Japanese Navy ordered 5 high-quality submersibles from Massachusetts and shipped them down to a place called Yokohama. In response, the Russians also placed an order for a submarine from the Germans, who had not yet built a submarine at the time. But in 1903, they completed their first fully functional submersible and shipped it off to the combat zone during the Russo-Japanese War. From there, the Russians were able to create the first ever operational submarine fleet, consisting of 7 submarines. And although this war ended in a treaty, submarine technology advanced greatly to become the biggest weapon of some countries during the World Wars. For example, Germany had a total of 48 submarines at the beginning of World War I, while the British had 77, with 15 others still under construction. That shows you how important submarines were to keep the peace in some areas during the war. In recent times, first world countries like the USA, Russia, Australia, and China have been able to sustain this technology and even create it in batches in case of any attacks from neighboring countries. Navy officials in these countries also use these submarines to train themselves for when the real need would arise. Thank you for sticking with me till the end. If you learned anything new, I'd like to hear them in the comments section. Till next time, bye!